All right, last time we learned about the holiday of Yom Kippur and how the holiday of Yom Kippur has three elements, namely the commandment of the holiday, fasting and praying, and the tshuva of the holiday, returning to God, asking forgiveness, and the fact that the day itself brings forgiveness. Okay, after all of this work that we did on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, making God a king, and getting forgiven for all of our mistakes that we did in the past year, so now we have the holiday of happiness. Now we can be happy, because the main thing is that we're serving the creator of the universe, and the creator of the universe wants to bless us. That's the holiday of Sukkot, when we feel these blessings. As is Mavor and Chassidus explains, that this is a Sichot, a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe on the holiday of Sukkot. As Mavor and Chassidus explain in Chassidus, the Allah Inyanim, that everything which is in Rosh Hashanah, in concealed, Kuman, Arois, Megillah, comes in a revealed way, the Yom Chagenu into Sukkot. From the Inyanim, one of the main things of Rosh Hashanah is the uniting of all the Jews. We learned that before. Remember that God blesses the month of Tishrei himself, Barum, because the service then is doch mit pnimis and neshama, because then the service of God on Rosh Hashanah is with the inside of your soul, like it says Bakshu Panai. And because of the inside of the soul, all of the Jews are exactly the same, which therefore unites them all together. They're all standing together, from the heads of the tribes till the lowest, the wood choppers and the water drawers. When the Isachtus, the uniting of all Jews, comes in revelation. Like everything of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, everything comes revealed in the holiday of Sukkot. Vir Zacht, like it says in the Midrash, as the Dalit, meaning that the four different types of vegetation that we take for the LULOV on Sukkot, Zayin Maram, is this hints at Allah Fashidna Sugim Yidden, all the different types of Jews. Pre-Eitz Adar, the what's called the etrog. These are Jews. Etrog, just like an etrog has taste and it has smell. Also the Jewish people, Yesh Behem, they are Bnei Adam Sheyesh Behem Torah, that they are Jews which have learned Torah and they have good deeds. Pre-Eitz Hadar, this is the etrog, and it has in it a taste. Taste is like understanding, so that's the Torah. And it has a smell. Smell you don't understand, you don't take it internally. It's not a thing like you can grasp internally. That's like the commandments. The commandments are not understandable, right? Why God wants us to put on tefillin, why God would want these things. That's God's will. Torah is God's wisdom that's inside, and God's will is not understand. That's like smell. So the Torah is like taste, and the commandments are like smell. Is Maram Azoiftem Sug Yidden, this is the type of Jews which have both Torah, which is taste, Alima the Torah, because learning Torah has to be with understanding. The word in Hebrew for taste and reason and understanding is the same, tam. And also when a person has a pleasure, also tam means that a thing is ta'im, tasty. Learning Torah is tasty. You understand the ideas. When ma'asim tovim and good deeds, reach, that's a smell. Because kima mitzvahs, because doing the commandments is like smell. Why? Because you do commandments without understanding, without any taste. The main thing is you do it because God told you to do it. That's the main thing. You also should try to understand. But the main element in the commandments is doing, and the main element in Torah is understanding. Kapos Tamorim, it says there are four types of vegetation that we take together to do this commandment. First one is the etrog, that's the tastiest, most expensive also. It has taste and also smell. Smells good. Kapo Tamorim, these are the Jewish people. Tamorim, that's like the center leaf, the center cluster of leaves from a palm tree. You ever seen a palm tree, like it spreads out gradually? but it starts off that's all unified in the middle, the top, just like the tamara, just like comes from a palm tree, just like palms have a taste, but they haven't got any smell. Also, there's Jewish people that have Torah, but their main thing is not doing commandments. Kapas Tamorim, and this is a lulav, which has a taste with it. Just translating into Yiddish. Anaf eitz avos, then they have what's called the hyssop, right? It's called the hadas. Hadas, these are the Jewish people. Also, they're compared to the type of Jewish people that have a good smell, but they haven't got any taste. That's Jews that they do good deeds, but they're not such good at learning Torah. Aravi Nachal, then there's willow branches. The willow branches, these are the Jewish people also compared to Jews. There's a type of Jews that they haven't got any taste and they haven't got any smell. Just like a willow branch doesn't have any taste, no smell. There's also Jews that they are, there are some Jews that they don't learn Torah and they don't do any good deeds. He translates into Yiddish. Omer Kodesh Baruch Hu, God said, tie them all together and make them one. Zokter Rebishter Zogen zusammen kleben. You should join all them together. They're all the Yidden, all the Jews in Anguda in one group, and then this will bring forgiveness on all one Jew on the other. When there's unity between Jews, as then there is joy and forgiveness and etc. Nochmer, even more, as Veret Oiv Getan, there's also the Isachtus from Sukkos, Oiv them Isachtus from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Even more, this causes a certain unity of Jews, which is better than the unity which was achieved on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Why? And there's Isachtus for Rosh Hashanah and the unity which is achieved by the Jewish people. Now, this thing about the Jewish people being unified, this is important not just for the Jewish people. I mean, everybody, if to be unified is always important, right? If you, how do you say, a nation divided itself against itself cannot stand. I don't remember who said that. No, it wasn't that. A house divided against itself cannot stand. If there's division, there's no matter what it is in the family and in the town. If there's division, then everything is all confused. You can't. Everybody's so occupied and just protecting themselves and knocking the other guy down. But when there's unity, it's good for that family or that town or whatever, that group, that religion. When there's unity, it's a very good thing. Right, a good thing. But unity among the Jews is important for the whole world, because the Jewish people were chosen by God to bring blessing to the whole world. That's what we're chosen from. We're the chosen people. We're chosen to be public servants, right? To serve the whole world, to bring good and benefit to the whole world. A public servant, a mayor, whatever, a president, whatever, he's in some way, he's superior because he's the mayor. He knows how to rule, he knows how to this. But because he has this quality, so he's owes everybody. He's like a debtor to everyone, right? He's the public servant. That's the Jewish people. They're the ones they're the servants of God, but they're also the servants of man. They have to do what God wants, but it's in order to benefit all of mankind. So when there's unity among the Jews are functional, then that brings a benefit and a blessing to all mankind. So the unity which is achieved by the Jews being together on Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the revealing essence of the soul, this is wonderful. But the unity on Sukkot is even greater. Why? Because the unity from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this unifies the Jews, all the different types of Jews, but the service of, for instance, the sounding the shofar of Rosh Hashanah and the tshuva of Yom Kippur, this is a general thing, how all the Jews are the same. Because of the avodah of the inside of the soul, that's Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And therefore, it's not so recognized the differences between one Jew and the other. As is bechesed, it's all concealed. Abel, bechag, Succot, and holiday of Sukkot comes all these different types of Jews in a revealed way. As herzich da, the esrog, there's the esrog, there's the lulav. Arab, the four different types of Jews, bestate, dach, as men. Zolnem and Dav Kafir, meaning you have to take the different Jew, they all have to be different. They have to be 4 different types. Und from deswegen, and nevertheless, wird from fear besondere Sugim, from these 4 different things will be one group. This is even a higher type of unity. According to this, we can understand the Midrash, what it says, that the highest of the 4 types is the esrog. The highest of the 4 types should be the etrog. So according to what it says in the Midrash, so it comes out that the highest of all the 4 types is the etrog. Why? Because the etrog has in it, that's the fruit. It's also most expensive. There's some etrogs you can buy $200, $300, $400, $500 even. If they really met all the specifications and they're beautiful. Well, a lulav and etrog is much, much, much cheaper at $10 you buy. It says the etrog is the best. It has taste, which that's the thing of Torah, and smell, and that represents the commandments. That's the type of Jew that has both. When it is it's the highest type of a Jew. The Jew which has both Torah and the commandments. According to this, it's moving, it's not understood. For us, why do we make the blessing on the Lulav? When we take the 4 types, we make al netilat Lulav. It says the reason is, as men macht a bracha of a lulav, we make the blessing on the lulav because it's higher than the other 4 types. So therefore, says the Rebbe, we have to understand all of everything, and especially in the Torah and the commandments, they are so because they're physical, they're the way they are physically. This is also the same thing spiritually. From which are taken. Everything in the physical world comes from something spiritual. It's a plan. The plan of this world is in the spiritual worlds. Is das gufa. So this itself, which the lulav is higher physically, this shows that somehow or other spiritually it also must be higher than the other types. And that doesn't make any sense though. Why? What's the good thing about the lulav? We said that the lulav only it represents the dates. It comes from a date tree. It represents the dates. Dates have taste, but they don't have any smell. An etrog has smell and taste. That represents the Jews that have both commandments and Torah. Vibald is a lulav, because a lulav only has taste. And the etrog has both tam, taste, and smell. Vedman is verstehen, we can understand by preceding the difference between Torah and the commandments. What's the difference between Torah, which that's the thing of taste, and the commandments, which that's what we said is the thing of smell. Oif mitzvahs by commandments, it says that the commandments are the limbs of the king. By Torah, we say that the Torah and God are totally one. Both of them come from God. We say that the commandments are more like the limbs of God, because you do things. And the Torah, this is like a person's brain, a mind. It's like one with the person. That's the person. The person is his brain. The avorim, the limbs from a body, zayin nit ayin, are not one thing. Einzach mit nefesh. The limbs are not the same thing as the soul. They're not one. So it's true that they are negated to the soul, and they carry out the will of the soul and automatically as soon as a person desires something, but they are the limbs are not the soul. A person, God forbid, can lose an arm, a leg, or whatever, and everything can be replaced, right? They have lung replacements, the heart replacements even. When a zoy, the mitzvahs, also the commandments. The commandments, they express a certain surrender of a Jew to God, and they do the will of God, but they're not really one with God in the same way of Torah. When erver nit eins is not totally one, doesn't have to take the commandment inside. With God, which is not the case when a person learns Torah. When a person learns Torah, he takes it into his mind into his brain. And when it's in his brain, then was the Sichot, the intellect of a person, this, so to speak, understands the Torah. You're understanding the wisdom of God. Until that your your mind becomes a Torah mind. He becomes united with the wisdom of God, and God and his wisdom are one. Vibalt as the Mila, because the special thing about learning the Torah is that he's totally one with God. So which was vert durch them, which by means of this he is unified with God. As vos mer a yid git up. So the more that a Jew devotes himself to learning Torah and understanding Torah, then he is more unified with God. So therefore, he is totally devoted to learning the Torah, right? He should be totally devoted to learning the Torah. That's the LULOV. That's the thing of the LULOV. The LULOV is just only taste. Sheyesh b'hem Torah b'ein lehem ma'asim tovim. It doesn't mean that they don't have it at all. It's a zikr, it's certainly the type of Jew. Every Jew does all the commandments. We're not talking about a Jew that doesn't do the commandments. That's a Jew that's denying God. We're talking about a Jew that his main emphasis is on learning Torah. He does all the commandments. He does everything. Why? Because when you learn Torah, it tells you what to do. Of course, he does everything that he learns about. And that, like it says, the Rasha Omar Elokim, like it says, the evil person says, I'm not going to do the commandments. I'm only Nochmer Afilo Azayin Nitan. Is nit beofen the Isur al pi Shulchan Aruch, even though what he doesn't do, right? He doesn't do anything that's against the Shulchan Aruch. Of course not. Nor erhad nitztam ma'asim tovim. It's just not that he doesn't have any good deeds. Is doch kala omer ein li'ela Torah. I feel the Torah. A person that says all I do is sit and learn Torah, then he hasn't got the Torah. But what does it mean though? The LULOV. The LULOV means a person that he does the commandments. Yes, he does. Of course he does. But the main thing he does, what he's obligated to do, according to Shulchan Aruch, his whole main thing is every free moment, is learning Torah. Is mer miyuchad. In some ways, he's more unified with God than even the etrog. So we're saying the LULOV represents the person that his main emphasis on life is learning the Torah. He does the commandments, everything, but every free moment that he's got in time or in occupation, as he learns Torah. Was is upgiven, he's totally given to the Torah, and he's an esrog, is devoted both to the Torah and the commandments. But Virum of Balt as is Ibr given nit blois to Torah, because he's not given only to Torah. Is Izer Dach Zeitweile, he's temporarily in the way of in them oifim from Tzavta v'chibur min Elokus v'durach mitzvahs. He's only unified with God in the way of the commandments, unit them yichud, but not the unity by means of the Torah. It's the same thing like in every community. Usually the leader of the community, the Jewish religious community, is the person that he's more involved in Torah. He knows the Torah better than anyone else. The laws, of course, the Torah. And sometimes you have the rabbi who he knows laws of the Torah, but he's not occupied in learning all the time. He can't be, because he's being called up all the time. People are asking him questions. He has to be involved in communal affairs. So the person who's sitting and learning Torah all the time, and because that's the portion that's given to him by God, and he has a good understanding. And of course, he's devoted. He does it because of God. He's not doing it because of academic reasons. So in some way, that's really the essence of Judaism. That's really what holds Judaism together. The Rebbe, therefore, is more madgish. Therefore, it's in the four different types we take, we stress mostly the LULOV, because the LULOV is this uniting with God, which is the Jews, which a Jew completely gives himself over to the Torah. Because the intention of taking the four types is unifying, and from all of the Jews together, this comes by the uniting with God, a complete unity which can only come through the Torah. So that's why it's so very essential. The Torah is so very essential to Judaism. According to this, we can understand why the Lulav, we find a special thing which is not by the other types. And that is that the Lulav moves, and we'll have to do this later. The Lulav it moves back and forth. We can see the idea of motion, and that's the Torah is really what moves the Jewish people. Learning the Torah, understanding the Torah. Of course, fulfilling the Torah is of utmost importance, but still the whole thing depends on the Torah. So even though you have to have all the four types, and those who do the commandments, and everyone, and all Jews have to do all the commandments, but putting a special emphasis on the Torah that's really the source of happiness, also the happiness of Sukkot, as we'll talk about more, God willing. And now tomorrow, I don't know if there's going to be a class. I will try to make a class tomorrow. I'll be in Miron by my son. And of course, Rosh Hashanah, there won't be a class. And then I'm going to be traveling to the Rebbe after Tzom Gedalia. So we'll see what happens then. Meanwhile, have a good day with Moshiach now. Oh, let's do the Yom Yom. Yom Yom. God's blessing brings wealth. This is so in general, but especially who gives his time to occupy with community needs and charity and strengthening Judaism. That's God's blessing brings wealth. God does not remain in debt. Every good thing that a person does, he is recompensed grandly by God with children, health, and livelihood in abundance. Do good, and God will give you good. Have a good day with Moshiach now. Wishing all of our listeners, there will be a class, God willing, today at 3 o'clock. So tune in.